Norcross joining us to kick off this week. Bryan, I know it's April, but as you know, it's a big week as we look ahead to the season. June 1st is when the Atlantic season begins for hurricane season. So we're 56 days away. But discussions, those forecasts coming out this week, in fact, by Thursday. We're talking about CSU.
Yeah, we already have a few of them out, and the CSU forecast, which is sort of the granddaddy of the forecast. They started in 1984 with Dr. Bill Gray at CSU, and now Dr. Phil Klotzbach has picked it up and has become famous for making these forecasts. Anyway, that drops Thursday morning in South Padre, Texas. I'll be there with Phil, and we'll talk to Phil about it in detail then. But I can tell you what's going on out there right now is this question of what's going to happen in the Pacific. So scientific research tells us that what happens in this area of the ocean here, kind of south of Hawaii along the equator, kind of controls the weather around the world. When there's a lot of warm water in this box right there, it's called an El Nino, and it affects the weather patterns. And one of the things it affects is hurricane season. It also originally came because it affects the fishing over in this part of the ocean. And the Peruvian fishermen noticed that it peaked around Christmas time. El Nino, meaning the Christ child, is how it got its name way back in the last century. But it's this box that we're going to look at the water temperatures in. And right now, what you can see is you have some cool water, you have some warm water. It's just slightly cooler than normal in that box right now. But notice a lot of warm water to the north, and off to the west here, there's a lot of warm water. So as you'll see, there are changes coming in the works. But it's that box we're going to look at. Now, the European Center, the people that make the Euro model, also forecast the water temperatures there in the Pacific. And this is what they're forecasting. You notice here we are just kind of down in the zero range now. Now, actually a little below zero. But look, as we go through June, and especially into the heart of the hurricane season here, way up into this range up in here. Notice 2 degrees Celsius above normal in this range. If it gets above 2 degrees Celsius, that's called a super El Nino, and that has traditionally caused really a significant decrease in the amount of activity in the Atlantic for reasons we'll talk about in just one second. Now, there is a wrinkle here. When you look at this on most places on the internet, you'll see exactly what we're looking at here with a lot of those numbers above 2 degrees. But it's 2026, and we do something differently beginning this year. We don't compare what's in that box to normal. We compare what's in that box to the average of the tropics around the world, because it's the contrast that affects the weather. So if the tropics all around the world are super warm, and then that box gets kind of warm, well, that box just kind of blends in with the rest of the tropics. So what we have now this year, beginning this year, is something called the Relative Oceanic Niño Index, or the RONI, and so that changes it by about a half a degree. So this has to get to be a super duper El Nino. Going back to that other graphic, has to be way up in here. So add another half a degree here. Has to be up in here to be a super El Nino. So when we really get to talking about this year, we'll see if it gets to that extreme height. But notice that most of these lines are a little below that 2.5 degree line. I mean, I'm guessing what it's going to be when we get to hurricane season in terms of this relative index and what the whole tropics are going to be and so forth. But normally it's been running about a half a degree. So anyway, we'll just see how that works out. In any case, a strong El Nino is forecast, at least, maybe a super El Nino. And the effect on hurricane season is indeed, can be pretty significant. So here's where we have been in terms of the RONI. You see in the La Nina range, but it's kind of moving up. So we'll see. Notice we go back here to 2024, and we had a strong El Nino. It was a very strong El Nino. But that year we had very, very warm Atlantic, so the systems in the Atlantic had enough fuel to overcome the effects of the El Nino. So that's going to be a question this year. Will the Atlantic be warm enough to fuel the systems enough to overcome those negative effects that the El Nino causes? All right, so here's what's going on. The El Nino, this warm water in here, it makes you just think warm water, what happens? It rises, right? The air rises over top of it. So this air rises, and then it has to come down, and it comes down in the Atlantic, tends to suppress activity in the Atlantic, and that also tends to create hostile upper level winds in the Atlantic, and that's why we generally have fewer systems in the Atlantic when there's an El Nino. So we sometimes get more systems actually in the Pacific, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Now, there's something going on out in the Pacific, which is really interesting. We have 3 systems out there. This one north of the equator spins that way. The one south of the equator spin that way, and then there's another one down here. Very unusual to have 3 so close together. Super unusual to have a strong system in the vicinity of Papua New Guinea. Now, why do we care about Papua New Guinea, and why do we care about this? Well, because look at the winds here coming this way and then coming this way. This is making kind of a jet. It's technically called a westerly wind burst, pushing warm water in the direction of that box that's over here. So when we get these westerly wind bursts, that's one of the triggering things of the El Nino, and is why generally we're forecasting a strong El Nino when it gets over in this area here. So you get the warm water moving along the equator in that direction. And those unusual systems in the Western Pacific can actually be part of that. Talked about the Atlantic. Right now, the Atlantic is not warm this year. It's kind of average to just slightly warm. So that would be, the inclination would be that would not counteract the El Nino. That's why the forecasts, I think, are going to come in about normal, plus or minus 14, 15, 13, 16, somewhere in that range, I think, is what we can look for in pretty much all the forecasts this year, because this El Nino thing is such a strong signal coming out of the Pacific. Guys?
Yeah, and Brian, I was just thinking, too, when you show even just prior seasons of when we did have a super El Nino, it is pretty rare, right? I mean, to get it to that strength for an El Nino, how often do we see that, really?
No, it doesn't happen very often, but it happens. We had a strong El Nino, super strong El Nino like this with these westerly wind bursts and these systems in the Western Pacific in 1997, and it significantly lowered the possibility of having storms, lowered the number of storms in the Atlantic. But sometimes when we have an El Nino, we do get bad hurricanes. It happens. Most of them form in the Gulf or close to the U.S. They don't form out in the Atlantic, and it's just one of those things where, there's a few days where the pattern gets conducive and something spins up. Only one storm has formed east of the islands, and that was Hurricane Betsy, which was a terrible storm in South Florida and New Orleans in 1965. That was an El Nino year.
And Brian, just real quick, when you think about, you talked about the Eastern Pacific, you think of 2023, Otis and Hillary, when we had an El Nino, an area we need to watch, too, the Eastern Pacific, right? Because we had Hillary for the United States, Otis for Acapulco.
Yeah, so yes, we definitely need to pay attention to what's going on in the Eastern Pacific this year, because they're going to have the warm water, and quite often you have all that rising air there. If it extends farther west, that warm water, which odds are it will, then you have all that rising air, which encourages development of tropical systems there in the Eastern Pacific.
Yeah, we'll be watching it all.
So
and of
impressive.
Course, yeah, the outlook from Colorado State University, one of the more renowned entities with that forecast coming in on Thursday, and we'll see what it has to say as we also will be seeing you.
I know. I'm excited for you.
Yeah. All right, Brian, thank you as always.
Okay, see you there.